Welcome to the Total Wireless Store, where total confidence awaits.
Music powers my morning runs, but data overages slow me down.
Don't worry, you got this with the Total Wireless Store. Just bring your number and get 10 gigs of lightning-fast 4G LTE data with unlimited talk and text for $40 a month.
I'd run to the Total Wireless Store right now for that deal, if I wasn't already here.
Data girl.
Discover the Total Wireless Stores and get total confidence. The latest phones, the best network, all at great prices. Excludes TracFone Wireless Inc. brand sports. $40 plan must remain active to keep bonus data after 12/31/18. Terms at stores.totalwireless.com.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com. And I am your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Reverend John Polk. And today we are interviewing Lewis Michael Rhinehart. And our show is about Mars and the Mars Anomaly Research Society and everything we're finding out about Mars. Let me tell you a little bit about Lewis before we bring on our guest and my co-host. Lewis retired in 2010 from the company he owned called Sound Hearing Solutions. And he was a hearing aid specialist and spent 18 years as a H.A.S, whatever that is, and I will ask him later, owning his company since 2004. He was born 5/22/51. And since his mid-20s, Lewis has been very interested in UFOs and aliens. In essence, he became a ufologist, reading all he could on the subject. At the same time, Lewis became very interested in all things spiritual, with a main focus on near-death experiences. September 11th, 2001, which is also known as 9/11, was the catapult for his true awakening, as it was for so many others. And Lewis knew instantly when he saw a tower fall that something was not right. And this was his beginning, the beginning of his research into the truth of all things. And then we're going to be talking about Lewis's work with Andrew D. Basiago. And Lewis was researching child prodigies when he was prompted by YouTube to view Borskika, the Boy from Mars, interview by Project Camelot. And then he was then prompted by Andrew D. Basiago's paper, The Discovery of Life on Mars, which was published 12/12/2008. And Lewis could not find the paper. And on 1/18/09, January 8, 2009, he contacted Andy, who responded the same day, directing him to the paper. And Lewis downloaded the paper, printed it, and absorbed the information. And understand that he was fully aware that we were not alone, but the last thing he thought was that Mars was inhabited. So he then proceeded to download Spirit Rover image PIA 10214, the image that Andy based his paper on, and not only found what he did, but much more. Then he communicated with Andy regarding this and began to work on analyzing Mars and its orbiter images. After a short while, Andy invited Lewis to be an official photo analyst for Mars, the Mars Anomaly Research Society, and a little more than a year later, Andy appointed Lewis as VP for Science and Education of Mars. And this year, there will be a Mars conference, and it will be the fourth one. And this is due to other circumstances, this is the first one in which Andy will speak. And I've heard Andy speak many times, and it's a treat for all you listeners who can get there. And one final paragraph, and then we'll bring on everybody. The fourth annual Southeastern Mars Conference will be held in Mobile, Alabama, at the University of South Alabama. And conference will be held in the Terrace Meeting Room in the Student Center building. And Andy will be speaking from 10 a.m. till 5. So be sure to set aside Saturday, October 24th, 2015, a good time to hear Andy speak all about Mars. And they are asking that you support this conference. This conference will only happen with your support, Actually, it's true for so many conferences. We need people to get on the plane and get in your car and drive and attend and be there at these conferences like this, because it's so important to look at other people and share consciousness, share breath, look at each other's eyes, open your hearts, and listen to the speakers, transform you. All these things are just amazing events that are very transformational. And there's information on my website, aquariumradio.com. Go to today's show, the Anomaly Network 10-10-15 with Lewis, Janet, and John. And you can find the link for the conference and the way to go and pay for this event. And we're looking forward to seeing you there. I wish I could be there, but I am going to be simultaneously. I didn't know about this, but I planned this a year ago. I am presenting at the Experiencers Conference in Sacramento, California, the exact same weekend. But that's okay. We're on two sides of the planet, and we're doing all this good stuff. So welcome to the show. My co-host first, John Polk. Reverend John, are you there?
I am glad to be on the show and very interested in listening to Lewis's perspective on Mars and his experience as a photo analyst. Briefly, my name is Reverend John M. Polk. I'm an international metaphysical minister. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I'm the founder of Wolf Spirit Ministries. I recently published a book entitled Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien. And I have a question, and actually starting with a comment for Lewis to get us started. So the Spirit Rover image, PIA 10214, if you could you go into detail about that image? And that's the image that Andrew Basiago based his paper on. And also, as a caveat to that, could you explain why you are such a backer of Andrew Basiago?
Sure. I would be happy to. John,
that's the right answer.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it so much. Before, thank you. Before I answer that question regarding PIA 10-14, I do want to say that the conference is happening regardless of the attendance. Okay, so right now we have about 25 that are going to attend, and which I feel is pretty good at this point. So I'm very happy about that, and it's going to be. It is actually exciting to have it at the University of South Alabama. I think it's really kind of cool, to me.
Right.
So anyway, regarding PIA 10-14, Andy spent literally a year examining that image, that Spirit Rover image, and of course it involved so much time and effort, and he produced an outstanding paper on that. And when I first looked at it, I was kind of really taken aback, because I really couldn't believe that here are the closest planet to us, Mars, was inhabited. But I didn't leave it go at just looking at his paper. I explored it further and downloaded the image myself, which I think you have briefed everyone on, Janet. And so I spent the time to really look over that image very well. And I found everything that Andy found and some. And it was, I was just flabbergasted. I was really flabbergasted, because I'm like, oh my goodness, I could not believe it. I really couldn't. I couldn't believe it, Yet on the other hand, it was right before me. So, and this is what has happened as far as myself backing Andy so much, because here I found that he was telling the absolute truth regarding Mars. So why would a person like him, who is really a Mensa caliber person, put out the truth about Mars and then turn around and try to destroy himself talking about time travel and teleportation? That made no sense to me. So I became on board like right away. I just knew. And then, you know how there's some things that you just kind of know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you just innately or intuitively kind of know it. And I just knew that this man was telling the truth. And we began communicating right away, and I kept exploring Mars, spending an ungodly amount of time doing that. And my wife, her name is Patricia, and she was so supportive. It was just incredible, because I spent so much time.
She was about ready to divorce you for spending so much time on it and not paying attention to you.
Yeah, it was really crazy, and she was so supportive. It's 100% support. So I was able to spend all the time that I really wanted to. And when I first began the research, I had not retired yet, but it was about a year later, I guess, I retired. And then I was able to spend even more time. So I guess for 3 years, I probably spent maybe 3,000 or more hours just looking at rover and orbiter images. And, of course, I became 100% convinced that Mars was an inhabited planet. So I supported Andy all the way, and not only that, but all of his other endeavors.
Well, Andy is a very special person, and I've met him several times. So especially when you meet him, eventually you'll meet him in person. Well, you are in a couple of weeks, but he's just he's so kind and loving. I mean, it'd be so great to have a president like him. And he is truthful and authentic, and he's the real deal. And I think we deserve that as a planet, to have a president like that.
I would agree. I would agree. And of course, that's why I so much support him, not in the truth telling about Mars and teleportation and time travel, but in his bid for the presidency. You know, I am convinced.
So what is going on in Mars? And we'll go back to Andy, but it's in the news now about all this water, and everybody that's in the UFO conspiracy field is going, we knew this all along. Do you have any insights on what's going on with NASA and the other secret space programs and all this hoopla, and what's this really about?
Well, I believe that the cover-up regarding Mars is extensive, and it has been going on for decades, and it's really a shame. It's really a shame. Here we are paying for, as taxpayers, paying for the so-called space program, and the space program that we have all known, the general population, is kind of a facade. So I think that the cover-up of Mars is really a very large point that within that cover-up, because a lot of the dollars that we have spent have been in the Mars program, and it's really very puzzling in a way, because why would they do this? Why would they cover this stuff up? And that becomes very deep. There are a lot of reasons for it. Basically, what I believe is one of the main reasons is to cover up the expenses. That there is in fact a secret space program going on, and that Mars has been inhabited pretty much as long as Earth has been inhabited. There are humanoid beings on Mars that look like us. That if they were walking down the street, you wouldn't know them from us. They look that close to us, So
right.
And they've been identified as Homo Martis Terris, which is the ones that look just like us. I think they're more, from what I've gathered, they're more barrel-chested, and because of the oxygen content.
We have some humans that are kind of, humans are not one shape, and
exactly.
There are some, like Czechoslovakian and big Polish people that they're, well, if you look at the images of the gods
exactly.
were barrel-shaped. Over, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and his prime muscles,
Yes.
But that's their normal. It wasn't like they had to do anything.
Yeah, and it's to me the whole thing is fascinating. Just Mars in and of itself. I mean, here we have. I found a dinosaur on Mars, and talking to Andy about this particular one that I found, he said there were some that you could actually pet, and this resembles one of them.
Wow.
Kind of low to the ground. And then anyone can look at this. I have a number of pictures in one of my albums on Facebook, so they can take a look at it.
Do you catalog your pictures? Do you have like a name for it or a number for the pictures we're talking about, so we can, there'll be so the people can go look at the particular pictures that you're talking about right now?
If I'm not mistaken, I've named this simply a dinosaur on Mars, and it's an album in my photos, and everything that I do, all the work I've done is all for the Mars Anomaly Research Society. I'm not looking for any kind of notoriety. I just want to be a part of exposing the cover-up.
Right.
Which is really what, when it boils down to the bottom line, why I'm having these conferences. I want to let people know what's really going on. I want to get the reality out there, like many of us are, like you two.
Right. Well, there's no money in it. You're not going to get rich doing conferences. You have to do it because, it's coming from your heart, because you desire, humanity to progress and become conscious and aware and enlightened and evolve and grow and stop having this civilization which only, grants people at the top, wealth, and everybody else down below kind of struggles. So that's why I do it, because I'm looking for the, once we have disclosure, we're going to have all these new technologies which will save the planet from extinction and stop pollution, which causes cancers and people to die. And I have friends dropping over like flies anymore. It's kind of scary and frightening, but it's like something's really going on, and something's got to give. So, these conferences are critical.
I agree. And like one of the things that I found on this is really interesting. I had my wife look at PIA 10214 also, and she was on board right away. She is like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this, And she found a being that I call the Cape Guy, and that is it's a Homo Martis Martis, which is an indigenous Martian, and he's got a caftan on, and I have it identified in one of my albums on Facebook as the Cape Guy, and only because that's the first name that I came up with, because it looks like a being with a cape on, and it's just, if you're looking at PIA 10214, it's just to the lower left of the horned being that Andy found that's kind of peeking over some rocks, and it's obvious to me what this is, So, and then when I'm searching the image, I found the hovercraft, I think, which you may or may not have.
I was grabbing some images.
Yes.
I didn't get them all on, but I was grabbing some before the show to stick on the site. But listeners, you can go directly to the Facebook page and you'll see all these images. I just have a sample of, there are how many pictures are there between all these different research societies? There are thousands of them now, right?
Yes, and all you have to do if you go to Mars Anomaly Research Society, and in any group you can do this. You click on photos, and right underneath the banner, and it shows you all the photos that are in that group. And if I'm not mistaken, Mars has pretty close to 14,000 members, and it's been around since 2009, first part of 2009, the latter part of 2008, and you can imagine how many photos are there. And there are a number of very good photo analysts out there now that are actively doing work on Mars anomalies. What I'm doing right now is just looking at those, commenting on them, and then if there's something that's very, very intriguing to me, then I'll take a look at it, download it, and do some work on it myself. But so here my wife is really not into it. She supports me. She's not really into it, and yet she finds an anomaly herself in PIA 10214. And Andy has expressed that people are going to be finding artifacts and anomalies on that image for years to come, and I believe he's right, because it's a very interesting image, So,
what makes you hone in on an area and identify something? Is there something that catches your eye, or what makes you start looking like, oh, what is that? What's the process like?
Okay, what I've always done in general is I'll download the image, and then I'll blow it up maybe 300 or 400 times, and then I will go to the far left of the image, start at the bottom, and go up screen by screen. And if I see something intriguing, I'll go over the whole image first like that. Then I'll go back and I see something intriguing, then I'll go into it and I'll lower the mag, and then key on that and look and see what is there. And I found all of the anomalies that I have found that way. So I'll take it and look at it, and then what I do, the process I use is I will take that image, and I use Picasso, which is a free download. You can go and download that, and then I'll take a specific image, blow it up to where I want it, do a little work with it in Picasa and then put it into paint. I don't change anything except for colors, hues, those kind of things. I don't add anything. I just take it as it is and just try to bring out what is there, or what it seems to me that is there. And then I let others look at it and decide for themselves. You know, like the one image that I have, I think I sent you, of the Wizard of Mars. That is a orbiter image, and it is a terraform. The Martians really like to terraform their habitats. And it was really interesting is that you can only see what it is from above. You can't, if you're on the surface.
They're terraforming it. Explain a little bit more about terraforming to our listeners. So you're saying that Martians really like to terraform their habitat. Is it not something that's conducive to their well-being? Or are they are they changing the atmosphere? What do you mean by terraforming? What are they doing?
What I mean is that they are through, like the Nazca lines. They're designing something to look like their habitat. In other words, or the beings that are living there. So the Wizard of Mars is like an example of Homo Martis Martis, which is the indigenous Martians. And it just happens to look like a wizard. But that says to others hovering over the planet or on the planet that this is where we live. You know, so and I believe probably, if not 100%, 99% of the time, it's identifying an underground habitat. You know, so they don't develop any atmosphere or anything like that. They simply move the land stuff around, the rocks or whatever, or carve it to make it look like something, a being or an animal. Like I have found one terraforming that it's a dog profile that sits right behind the profile of what looks like a gray. So it's a alien gray, and inset within it is the profile of a dog. Now, what that identifies as far as the type of habitat and who lives there, I'm not really sure. All I know is that's what's there. And right in front of it, kind of right in front of their faces, is a moon-shaped habitat. And you can actually see a spire. You can see that where the entrance is and everything, and that is on my Facebook page in my albums. You know, so wow. I call it the alien dog habitat. You know, and those are all over the place.
So you're seeing Earth animals like dogs, which are domestic animals, on Mars. So I wonder, when did humans domesticate dogs? That's a good question. I'm going to Google that.
Yeah.
This seems like there might have been going back and forth, huh? You know, from the Earth to the... Like it was a society that was spacefaring. And we have stories of the Anunnaki having a Mars base, which was their transshipment station where they sent the gold before they sent it back to Nibiru. Are you seeing ruins that are, I guess you can't really age them, but maybe there's some that you would call more ancient, or I know that Brett and Karen Patrick. What's Brett's? I forget his last name right now. Sorry.
Brett Collins Shepard.
Brett
Collins Shepard.
Brett Collins Shepard is. They've been identifying the images of the gods and stuff. And so I've seen an image of a pharaoh, and that indicates these could be thousands of years old rather than just something that's recent. So are you finding that in your research as well?
Yes. There are definitely a number of Egyptian-type artifacts and actually statues and terraformings. I sent you something. It was called the Mount Marsmore.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that. Okay. What that is it's 3 heads. Now, I don't know. I can't really say if they're living or they're statues or exactly what's going on with them, but it's 2 clearly Egyptian-type heads with a very large cranium, and then there's in front of them, there's a face that looks like Max Headroom, if you remember him from way back.
Oh, I remember that, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it looks like him, and then coming down this ramp are Martians, and they look like they're either visiting these beings / statues or worshiping them or something, but it's definitely has a Egyptian flavor to it as far as how the statues appear. And Andy found a sarcophagus in PI 810-214, which is kind of amazing because the neck is real thin. How that survived the cataclysms that have happened on Mars, I'm not quite sure, but anyway, it's there. And I am one of those that subscribe to the explosion of the Villanova being a major cause of devastation on Mars simply because it makes sense of when it happened, like roughly 11,500. About 11,500 years ago, so it was right around the time of Noah's flood.
Right.
So the speculation is that the flood was also caused by this explosion, and
what is the explosion again? What exploded?
The Vela supernova.
And it was what, a star somewhere that reached our.
Right. It was a very large explosion that really it went into our solar system, just about destroyed Mars and pummeled Earth, and caused the flood.
Just to tie in with my research is that, of course, Sitchin covered it in his. That was one of the passings of the Nibiru, and he ties it in with the story of, the gods who were represented now as God, telling Noah to build a ship. So there was a forewarning that there was an apocalypse coming, and they go into great detail how Enki would go to the moon and Mars because the atmosphere was thinner and look for the Nibiru coming in, and they were always concerned about, is this passing going to cause devastation? Because not every time, obviously, but there were times of the passing Nibiru where, it came too close and it caused different things to happen on both and Nibiru and the other bodies in the solar system. So we have that historical story, and I'm not sure, I don't know where this other theory is coming from, but it's interesting to tie them in because they're not mutually exclusive. Like a passing of Nibiru may have triggered an explosion, et cetera, just like we see when immense energy comes through the solar system, it just wreaks havoc, including sending lots of asteroids towards the moon and Mars and the Earth, et cetera.
Yeah, it really, when you think about it, it kind of makes sense that all of this stuff kind of ties in together, and it's really hard to point. It's hard to pinpoint the exact cause, and yet it seems to tie in.
Right.
So, but this. I mean, if you can check out Wikipedia on the Villanova explosion, and it just happens to coincide with the time of Noah's flood, So I don't know. I just look at what makes sense. That's what I do. Just look at what makes sense. And I also, one of my things, I really dive deeply into some things, but in general, I tend to want to know general things. I want to know just kind of the gist of things. I don't necessarily need to know the specifics, but I want to know generally how things are. It depends on what it is. It depends on what it is. It's like, I mean, I don't want to dwell on this at all, but it's going back to the 9/11 thing. Well, I really dove into that. I really dove into it. I really dove.
I was in a coma. When 9/11 hit, I was in a coma. I'm very psychic. And I literally was in a coma. And I woke up to the Twin Towers falling. And I was angry at everybody. I said, why didn't you wake me up? The world's ending.
Yeah.
You were sick. I go, yeah. Please wake me up when the world's ending. I want to know about it.
That is good.
But
That's good.
That was a big aha about, something's rotten in Denmark here. And then, of course, David,
that's so funny. That was one of my mother's sayings. Something rotten in Denmark. So. But
I think that's a German thing. Is your mother German, Rhinehart? Is that German?
Well,
my mother's
it actually came from Dad, because Dad was
Dad.
part German, and that hit me. I mean, 9/11 hit me like a ton of bricks, and then so did the truth is the revelation about Mars. I mean, here I am, a ufologist, and I'm heavily into it. I read, Raymond Fowler, his whole thing on the Andresian affair. I mean, just so much. I knew what was going on, and then turn around and I find out that Mars is inhabited. Well, that was just, to me, that was just crazy. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe it.
Right.
It was crazy from the standpoint of just, I cannot believe this. This is incredible. But then what is very strange, Janet, is that even though I thought it was like, wow, I just knew that it was the reality. I just knew it. It's just like one of those things, just like I knew when I saw a tower fall that something was amiss.
I agree. I had the same revelations. Now, I've been interviewing different people lately on my Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio. On Sunday, I've had Randy Kramer last week, and I have to go re-listen to the interview. It was so mind-boggling that my mind was boggled in the middle of what we were saying, where we was going. And then I had Corey. No, I didn't have Corey Good. I had Dr. Mike Musala talking about his Corey Good interview. I wanted to get Corey Good because he talks about the secret space program, but he's kind of exclusive with David Wilcock. But I think pulling together the past stuff, Sitchin and the story, the Sumerian story translations. Sitchin, everybody quotes Sitchin, but Sitchin came along after this guy named Kramer, K-R-A, Samuel Noah Kramer, who started researching it. I think it was the University of Philadelphia or something when they did the digs years ago. I think he was sorting through it and translating Sumerian texts back in the, here's a book by Noah. I don't know, I think it was the 50s, maybe the 40s, could have been earlier. You know, how they had all those gigs going on in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and they were starting to uncover a lot of these ruins, and they were getting the cuneiform, and they were getting all these things in, they were translating. So let me see, when did he write this? This is Noah Kramer. He's been dead forever, too. Let's see, 63 this was published, and that might not have been the first publication. Okay, so let's just say 63, and then Sitchin came around in, I think it was 76, so this information has been out quite a while. So we have the ancient information on Mars, the Earth-Mars connection. We have the story of the Martian invasion, which when you read it from the Sumerian was just, they decided to come down to Marduk's wedding, who is Ra, and they liked the pretty girls, and they wanted wives, and they were up there, they were lonely. They didn't have any women. And it's actually funny.
Right.
There was a movie back in the 60s that starred Tommy Kirk, and it was called Mars Needs Women. It was like one of those, like a beach blanket bingo type movie, but of course Tommy Kirk was one of those stars.
Yeah, that's a good one, right, John?
I actually saw it because I liked Tommy Kirk. I was following him for a while there. Anyway, Don, you've been far too quiet. What's going on in your mind? I know you have a lot of things to say, and you did a ton of research, which I really appreciate because I've been moving around too much lately, doing all kinds of stuff. What are your thoughts, ideas, feedback, questions, etc.?
Piggyback the Mars Needs Women. You have to think that they came and intermingled with the Earth women, and then stands to reason that many of us are in fact Martians, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah. I would agree, John. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, we all come from the same creator gods. Where they inhabited Mars, they inhabited the Earth, and it wasn't just the Anunnaki, although those were probably the main ones who did it. But there was numerous factions from all over the Milky Way, Andromeda, the Omniverse, the multiverse, all combined. This is such a fruitful planet, the blue dot in the Milky Way. It's just it's a library for plants, animals, Homo sapiens, all forms of life. But in my research, I was reading up on some things you said on Facebook. The three Martian humanoid species, Homo Martis terris, which could be defined as Earth Man of Mars, and then Homo Martis Martis, Martian Man of Mars, and then Homo Martis extraterrestrialis, extraterrestrial man of Mars, and then this came from and forgive me if I say it wrong, the Linnaean system of classification. What exactly is the Linnaean system of classification for these humanoids on Mars?
Well, actually, that's a very good question, and I can tell you that Andy.
Yeah, it came from Andy, actually.
Yeah, he named them, and then also there's Homo Martis de minimis and Homo Martis sasquatchus. Okay, so those are actually the main species, humanoid species that are on Mars. And where that actually derives from, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of that is from Latin.
Right, yeah.
I can't remember how Andy first identified them, but then there was a linguist that came along that kind of fixed it, and I can't remember what it was before it was fixed. I just remember what it is now. But the Homo Martis de minimis is really interesting. I mean, there's beings that are like 6 inches tall, on the planet's surface. And I'm only going to say this because I spoke to William Stillings about this on his radio show, so it's not like a secret. He told me that he was friends with a being that was about 12 inches tall, that looked just like us, only 12 inches tall, and that he saw a humanoid that he guessed was roughly 38 feet tall.
Wow.
So he saw him.
Maybe
He saw him
that's behind the fairies, stories of fairies, being these little tiny things. And also Ray Pasalundich says that he's been in contact with a really tiny fairy type humanoid, very tiny humanoids.
Yeah, and why not?
Why not?
I mean,
why not?
Like,
why not?
Gulliver Travels.
Yeah,
right.
Great movie.
Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from? And Andy and I have spoken a number of times about the really cartoonish looking type beings that are on the planet's surface, that you would think that Charles M. Schultz and Dr. Zeus got their inspiration from them, because like I have one.
Probably.
It's really, I've seen beings that have like goofy like faces. The cartoon character Goofy, and then on I've actually got a album with this. It's called The Duck-Billed Lady. I can't remember the image number, but it's in my photos. And there is a lady. It's a female because she has a dress on. She's got frilly sleeves. She's got a midi skirt on, and it kind of is puffy and sticks out. And she's serving what looks to me like she's serving a plate, a platter.
Really?
Up onto this rock. Now, this image that this is in is also the same image that dinosaur that I have that is one of the ones that Andy said possibly you could pet. And I believe it probably...
It would be great to have artists maybe pull them out and do a conceptual, what does this look like? Now, you're saying they're walking around in our cameras or that? They can get people walking around?
They're setting it. Well, they're setting the beings. I mean, of course, they're stills. They're stills, but
right,
there's
just like taking photos of our people walking around our planet or,
Yeah.
Now, are they in cities or out in the country type of thing?
Well,
are they
this particular, the one that I'm telling you about, the duck-billed lady, she seems to be just kind of out there in this area, this inhabited area. And when I say inhabited area, Ross Curley and I had looked at this image. I wish I could remember the name of the image, but it's on my Facebook page. But anyhow, Ross Curley and I had looked at this image, and he was taken so aback by what he was seeing that he had to stop looking at it because it's just filled with life. It's all over, So, and we started a project on it, but again, you're so wrapped up in some other things that you're doing, not only this work and truth we're trying to get out to everyone, but you have your own personal life going on too, So it's you got to juggle, kind of juggle things, But this particular image is just filled with beings, with living beings, you know. And a lot of people don't see it. They're still going to see rocks. And I like Andy identified them as raucous. You know, so that's you know what, that is okay.
You got to laugh at some point, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and you know what, that's okay, because that is simply the way it is, simply how it is. You know, so as a hearing aid specialist, I tested a lot of people. I tested their hearing. I mean, thousands of them. And the people that I tested that had normal hearing, some of that normal hearing was pretty good. Other people, they were off the charts. They could hear a pin drop. You know, so how someone hears their audio perception varies, you know, just like their visual perception is going to vary. You know, so some people see it and some people don't. Some people hear it and some people don't. And it's just how it is. You know, it's not, you know, I don't fault people for it, because it is how it is. You know, but you can develop, I believe you can, keener sense of sight if you really, you have to understand first, as far as looking at Mars, you have to understand first that it is inhabited. And you have to go in, I think, kind of knowing that. You know, because it is. It most definitely is. I have no doubt whatsoever about that. None. I mean, I could be I could be surrounded by 10,000 people that tell me that it isn't, and it's just not going to work. You know, they're not going to convince me, because I know. You know, when you know something, you know it.
Well, Lewis, you also mentioned about the atmospheric pressure is about 800 millibars, not 8 millibars like NASA proposes.
Correct.
You know, and well, that means it can support life. You know, and then you went on to say on something I read on your Facebook that there's in fact humanoids, animals, and more life on Mars than we even know, and that the Homo martis terris were descendants of our ancestors from the colony that we had there before the solar system catastrophe around 9500 BC or 11,500 years ago that devastated Mars, and the great maritime civilization on Earth that built the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx, which I found incredibly fascinating. And then that also goes into the Twin Peaks area on Mars also, where they have basically a Giza Plateau. And the nearest volcanic activity is the Tharsis region, which is over 2,000 miles away. So what can you tell us about the Twin Peaks region mirroring the Giza Plateau on Earth?
You know what, John, that is a very good question, and I wish I could answer it for you. I wish I could really tell you what I know about it, but I can't, because I really don't. I really don't know anything about that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Thing. No. What I do know is that we definitely had a connection.
Well, that
with
ties
the
in
Egyptians.
from my research. Yeah,
exactly.
Research. Egyptians were, thought the Anunnaki designed the pyramids. And that was his design, and he designed Giza and that whole area there. And so that ties in with, they were just the same culture, building the same thing. That's why they tie in together. And they actually face each other, apparently, and I'm not an expert in all this because I haven't done this level of research, but I'm looking at the stories, and just looking at stories of what people have told me and the correlations that I'm piecing together just as a reader, reading A, B, C, D, and E, that the face on Mars actually faces the Sphinx. And the Sphinx originally was the image of Nagashita, was also known as Stones or Thoth, and he was one of the sons of Enki, the Anunnaki. So the culture was they were going back and forth, gold, and their people were going back and forth. It was one big culture, and also you're going to have the correlations on the moon. That's why you see pyramids everywhere. It was one big civilization. That's what my research is showing.
Yeah, and also Cairo means Camp of Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, and I actually saw or listened to Lewis talk about that in one of your YouTube videos, which I got to watch. I watched at least a little bit of every one that you had sent us, and
that's cool.
Well, it was necessary to be able to do thorough research. Some of them were like an hour or more long, but I at least wanted to watch the first 5 or 10 minutes of each one just to get a handle on, on what your history and what you have done in your research also. Something else I found fascinating is that in something that was written on one of your links, it said, why in 1981 would Courtney M. Hunt tell a 19-year-old Andrew Basiago that the reason the CIA wanted him to go to Mars was because the survival of mankind depended on it? And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that for us.
Yes, I think that there's a very big reason for that Courtney Hunt, I think, knew the future of Andy. I'm sorry, I just totally lost my whole train of thought.
Courtney was aware of the time travel aspect of this whole. I don't know, for those who don't know much about Andrew Basiago, he did both time travel. He was part of the time travel program and the Mars jump program. So perhaps to get a hold of one of the predicted futures for Andy, where he's going. I don't think that the future is set in stone, but maybe they can look into the future and see what's going on. They have different technologies. So if they travel there, or they view it.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I believe that Hunt he somewhat knew what Andy's future was going to be, and he was a big part, of course, of getting him initiated into the Mars program and understanding the importance of it. So I think that without him, Andy may have not have been part of that program. I mean, that's the way I see it. But there's so much backstory to this that it's hard to put it all in one little capsule. So.
Oh, because I don't know the backstory to it. I guess I didn't do enough research on it.
Oh, you don't know Andy's story, John? You're not familiar with Andy?
No, how Courtney played into it. I do know of Andy's, but I didn't know who Courtney was. Courtney Hunt.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, hopefully I can get this right. I believe he was a cousin of the. Hopefully I'm not wrong with this, and if I am, surely Andy will at some point fix it and correct it. But I think he was related to the Hunt brothers, who tried to corner the silver market. back in the 80s, I believe. But I do know that one of the trips that Andy took to Mars with Courtney Hunt, that they traveled a good way, I think over a mile, and I come across this hut that was occupied by this guy that was really kind of freaking out, and he had a kind of a humanoid that was on a chain outside his house. The screen door was dilapidated. It was just a dilapidated makeshift home on the surface of Mars. And one of his comrades had been killed or eaten by one of the predators on Mars, one of the dinosaur predators on Mars or something like that. And if I'm not mistaken, this was also the same trip that when they were headed back to the Corkscrew, which was the jump room facility that they had come in, they were headed back there and they were being chased by one of the predators. Not a dinosaur, but a dinosaur-like creature that resembled like a turtle with a long neck. That
right,
Andy described. Andy described as having teeth going all the way down its throat, and they had to jump back into the jump room, to escape it and get back home. But I think that Courtney Hunt was, in the beginning at least, like someone who how should I say this, a guide for Andy?
Mm-hmm.
A guide. I don't want to say a handler, because I don't know if that's what he was. He was just a guide for him on Mars.
Right,
so,
right. I read the term tour guide in relation to the Corkscrew incident in 1982. Does that sound accurate?
Yes. And of course, getting to the predators. I mean, and this is like really out there, but to think that there are dinosaurs, kind of dinosaur-like creatures on Mars is really, it's kind of crazy to think about. But Andy describes them as having a raptor, velociraptor-like bodies and T-Rex heads. And they were very fast, and you really couldn't escape them. If they were after you, you were caught.
Mm-hmm.
But, which I could imagine would be so, but...
right.
So getting to the anomalies that have been found, there's been a number of skeletal remains of dinosaurs that have been found on the planet's surface. A number of people have found them. A number of people have found creatures look like rodents. I have personally found what I think are snakes. It's kind of crazy. Snakes with heads and legs. They kind of
I've seen that in the India epics from the country of India, the Naga also.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
I've seen that iconography in their temples and stuff. Yeah. And so I remember, I think I actually read this somewhere that all living things are trying to become humanoid. That it's like the I don't know, the ideal form. I mean, if you think about it.
Well, it makes sense, because when I'm an experiencer contactee, when I go to the council meetings, they are they're bipedal with opposing fingers, hands, opposing fingers, and they tend to have a head with eyes, some form of eyes on it. And that seems to be the form that is the most revered in the cosmos from the people that I've been dealing with. But
that to me that makes sense, because now on the other hand, I think okay, evolution, well, we're not going to grow another arm. Well, but aren't we? Like in the movie John Carter.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah, I read actually I'll tell you what you really got to do. You got to read the book, the trilogy that is out there about the Princess of Mars. It is, I could not put this book down, and we're talking about a tomb. This thing is, I could not put it down. It puts the movie to shame. John, you saw the movie, John?
I own the DVD. My mom likes it. So.
Yeah.
We watch it quite a bit. Oh, Mom loves it. So, yeah. Cool.
But anyway, it's very good. The movie is very good, but when you compare it to the book, it's not even. Sometimes movies and books are pretty good, pretty close, but this doesn't even touch it. The book is just incredible. And of course, Tarkus, who was the main character Martian, he had 4 arms, so.
Oh, just like not? They did in the movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it was much more in depth and elaborate and fascinating. The book was just outstanding. It was outstanding. So I think that Mars, the inhabitants of Mars, not only the humanoids, but the animals are extremely diverse. I think it's just incredible. Now, if my memory serves me well, in the Mars Jump Room program that Andy was in, there was, I think, 30 or 30-some animal species that were identified, something like that. So, it is a desert planet.
Mhm. Right.
So
it probably has.
It looks like Death Valley,
just like the Earth does.
Yeah,
but is the whole thing desert, or is there really some green parts? Because, look at how complicated the ecosystems are here on the Earth.
Yeah. Well, I want you to understand also, I am a student, and really I'm a student of Andy and his work, besides doing my own work.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that there is if I'm not mistaken, a Texas-sized green area on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
and Joseph Skipper, he did some excellent work in showing trees and a lake. And the work, I've done some extensive work on Burns Cliff, which I do not believe is a cliff at all. I believe that they have distorted that image to the nth degree to make it appear like a cliff, when in fact it's relatively flat and that there is water all over it. And from what I can see, I see humanoids, animals in the water. I see what looks like a boat in the water. I see also, this was an effort by both Ross Curley and I. We looked at this picture, we called it the polar bear. And what it looks like is this large cave that appears to look like a polar bear, but there's something stored in it. And directly across the water from it, it looks like a bunch of straw cabanas. And in fact, the polar bear seems to be a large cabana in and of itself. So this is purely speculation, or what I perceive it to be. and it looks like that area, that particular area where the polar bear image is a kind of a resort-like area. So I think Burns Cliff has flowing water all over it. I've got an image within that cliff area that shows someone that identifies the harmonica man. It looks like a guy playing a harmonica, and that's why I've identified it as such. And then also at what seems like the edge of that cliff, if you were looking at the full image, it's going to be on the top of what they designate as the cliff, and to the right of center, say at about maybe 2 o'clock, there's a couple scorpion beings. And Andy identifies scorpion beings in his paper, The Discovery of Life on Mars. And there's a paper in the Annals of Mars at projectmars.net that shows my find of the scorpion beings and Andy's, and then a picture in a book I found on Egypt that shows the goddess Circuit. And the goddess Circuit is depicted in Egyptian times. She's depicted as sometimes having a motif that looks like a scorpion being on the top of her headdress, and or other times she's shown as a scorpion being. And in the image that's in the Annals of Mars, it shows an artifact that was found. It's a marble block with a scorpion being that's the goddess Circuit on it. You know, so these scorpion beings are real, living beings. And they're I haven't come across many of them on Mars. Probably 4 or 5, not including Andy's. So they're not everywhere, either that or they hide themselves very well.
Wow. Did you ever see Scorpion King? Did you ever see Scorpion King?
Yes.
So, did it look anything like that, like the human torso and head and then the body of a scorpion, or did it have the face?
That's exactly what it is. From the waist up, it's humanoid. From the waist up, it's humanoid. Now the one I found too they're very muscular. So they're big up top and muscular, and their tail is exactly like a scorpion.
Oh, I've missed some really good movies here.
Oh, I love anything mythified. I just love it. I eat it up.
I can't help it.
You sounds like you do too, Lewis. I love all those movies. I do. I'm a geek.
Yeah, I'm really
sitting here clueless. I wish I would have seen these.
I don't watch TV per se, but I really do watch a lot of movies, and I've come, of course, to understand that so much truth is embedded in these movies. You know, yet it's at the same time it's truth. Yeah. It's truth and disinformation too.
All wrapped into one sensationalized story. And
exactly.
Part of it's true, part of it's true, part of it's not. But if any part of it's true, it means that ET exists, and that's really all that I care about. So. Right.
I think I've always known that. I remember. This is really crazy, but when I was in 5th grade, and I shouldn't really remember this, but I do. I was in 5th grade, and we did a science project, and our project was to make a model of the solar system. And I was going to be the spokesperson for our class for the day. And what happened is this friend of mine, a classmate, was supposed to do the evening. He got sick, and I ended up having to do the evening also. And this couple, I'll never forget, this couple comes up. Now, I don't remember the guy, but I remember the woman, I guess it was a mother, but I remember her very, very clearly. I can see her in front of me now. And she asked one thing. She says, "So, do you think there's life on other planets?" And without hesitation, I said, "Yes." So here I am in 5th grade. I'm like, what, 10, 11?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So
you knew.
I think,
you knew.
Yeah, I think I've kind of always known. And not only that, of course, but we're surrounded by life. It's all around us. It's everywhere. I mean, it
permeates the universe. Yes.
Yeah, exactly like you were saying earlier, John. I mean, it's like everywhere. So it's so when you get to Mars and how I reacted when I found out that Mars was inhabited, it was like at first, initially, it was like, whoa, but then it was like, well, I'm not surprised, And what initiated me being brought in as a photo analyst for Mars was that I found movement. I found in Victoria Crater, I found movement. I found a shot by the rover, 2 shots of the same scene, that everything was changed. The things were not in the same place. And after I found that, then that's when Andy invited me to be a photo analyst. And getting back to Victoria Crater, if I may.
Yeah.
I think I sent, Jana, I sent you the Hammerman.
I saw it.
Okay, you saw it. Okay.
The festival on Mars, and the Hammerman was one of the featured photos.
Yeah.
There was a bunch in that also in the Festival of Mars, but talk about the Hammerman.
Well, the Hammerman, it's really so strange. I mean, I saw it right away. As soon as I was looking at the image, it was the first thing I saw. It's like, whoa. And then I bring my wife in because I'm like, okay, look at this and tell me what you see, without telling her anything. She's like, is that somebody holding a hammer? I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
So, and he's holding it out in his right hand, and he's got his left hand wrapped around like an outcrop piece of rock, and his right hand is sticking like he's showing it to the rover. Well, when I first initially showed that to Ross Curley, who is a VP of photo analyst for Mars, he couldn't see it at first, but then he found another Hammerman just to mine. If you're looking at the image, it would be to your left, but it's to the Hammerman's right. And there's a guy, he looks like he's dressed in a flannel shirt, and he's holding his hammer in his right hand, but he's instead of having it stretched towards the camera like you would hold a fish out to make it look bigger, he has it stretched out to his right. So there's actually 2, what I think are festival workers that are holding hammers on the crater edge. And then another, what I find really incredible, is there is a horsehead bar. There's like it looks like a bar that has the front of a Viking ship on it. It looks like a horse's head. And she's behind it, She's got a bun in her hair. She is facing to our left, and in front of her looks like a humanoid that is singing. Now, my guess is, and this is a guess because it's really hard to make out what she's doing. I was thinking she's either tending bar or she's playing a piano. Now, she's sitting down. She's sitting down.
Give me a drink.
Anyway, she's sitting down, and you can see she's got a black dress on, and and she's got a white collar on, and you can see her hair is in a bun. Now, it took me a little bit to be able to bring out the guy that's in front of her singing, but there are tables, and then all around her are beings and people attending the festival. And then behind her and kind of, I guess, 2 o'clock off of her, there's a large head that I believe is just some kind of a statue-like thing that looks like a Viking. It's like a Viking face. And it's really easy to see that. And then there's a clown in it. There's what I see as someone face painting. On the ramp that's going up and down to the left of the Hammermen, there's one guy that's walking up the ramp carrying something, and there's another person walking down the ramp carrying something. And both of them have kind of cartoonish-like faces. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think that's a whole festival that's going on. And then there's a guy, he looks to be rather large. He's got some kind of a emblem, almost looks like a Superman or Batman emblem on his shirt. His hair is all frizzy and just kind of strange looking dude that's within the rocks, you know. So even though the most of the habitation is underground, you know, which makes sense. You know, so I think like the duck-billed lady, I think that's an area where probably they primarily live underground, because you don't really see any homes or anything like that above ground in that area. So I think they're just out and about in the sun. You know, but if you really look at that duck-billed lady, you can see that she is wearing a skirt, and you can see there's frills on her sleeves, frills around the dress.
See everything.
Yeah. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I really find, and I have found, I guess, for most of my research, that the festival on Mars is probably the most fascinating, large research project that I've done. And then looking at Burns Cliff, I did a separate thing just on distortion. So I think if I have it identified as data distortion Burns Cliff or Burns Cliff data distortion, something like that, on my in my Facebook albums.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah, and it shows, you can see the clusters of rocks that are repeated. You can see it. You can see that they're purposefully repeated, that it wasn't a mistake. I mean, if you had one set that was repeated, you could say, okay, well, someone that was doing the splicing, they kind of, you know, messed up a little bit. But then it's over and over again, you know. Are you seeing?
I'm looking at the hovercraft. I'm looking at the hovercraft right now, and that's really compelling footage.
Yeah. The one in PIA 10214.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I'm looking at that right now. It's really good footage.
Yeah. Yeah, so and I am certain that that's what that is. I mean, you can see the shadow under it.
Good point. That's a brilliant observation, actually. You can see it's got wings. It kind of looks like on Star Wars.
Yeah, it's pretty well.
Was kicking around in, you know, him and Obi-Wan. It kind of looks like that.
Yeah, and you can actually see a shield. If you really look at it, you can see a shield, and you can see that there are occupants in it. You can see it. So it's not the easiest thing to see, but you can see it. It's there. You know, so
one thing I can definitively see is the shadow underneath it. I mean, that's got to demonstrate something.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know, and again, Andy has said that this is going to, that image is going to be looked at for years, and lots of stuff is going to be found. And then I also found what I call the Green Man Group, of course, modeled after the Blue Man Group. You know, the Green Man Group. But the Green Man Group is that you can see it's a few humanoids standing together, and like a lot of people ask, well, they're always looking at the rover. Well, yeah, they know the rovers are there, and it is my belief that not only do they know they're there, but they want to be seen. That the humanoids on Mars want to be seen, because if they didn't, those rovers would have been destroyed already.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been destroyed from the get-go. I mean, why not? That's just how I see it. You know, so you have someone invading your privacy, you're going to get rid of it, or you're going to invite them in. You know.
Well, you figure they're doing research on our rovers. They're doing research on us. At the same time, we're doing it on them. They're, you know, curious, just like humans are.
Yeah. Now, I think, and this is just me, I think that they are very much aware, the general population on Mars is very much aware of what's going on, that they know Earth is inhabited, they know everything that's going on. They're not kept in the dark like the population is here. You know, so I think that they, to a large degree, welcome it. They welcome being, and say, yeah, we're here, you know. I mean, why would the hammer man take his hammer and push it out in front of him, in front of the rover, and show it, and show, yep, here we are, I'm working on this festival. Why would you do that?
Because he wanted it photographed.
Yeah.
I mean, why else would you do that?
Exactly.
He knows it's taking photographs, so.
Yeah. And I really, now there's varying opinions on this, but it's my opinion that they are helping to keep the rovers clean. I mean, a lot of dust, you know, so I think they're helping to keep the rovers clean, if not solely doing it. I mean, they're, you know, it's a lot of it is really speculation.
Right.
I mean, the only, you know, I sink my teeth into what I see through research, and what it looks like to me, and what others are showing, and I can confirm that, and then through the testimony of Andy, Randy Kramer, Brett Stillings, Bernard Mendez, Michael Ralph, you know, these people that have been there and know what's going on, you know, so and because I realize that Mars is in fact inhabited by humanoid beings, then they are saying, you know, I can understand, and so I look at what makes sense. Now, truthfully, Randy Kramer, I was on the fence with for a while, because it's like, you know what I mean? You know, I don't take it for the truth right from the get-go. I gotta hear more. I gotta see more. You know, I gotta know more. You know, so. But now, I feel that he is on the up and up. I believe he is the real deal. You know, and he corroborates a lot of what Andy has said. You know, so I think that he is someone that we need to pay attention to.
Right.
I agree.
I agree
Completely. Yes, I agree. I've had similar experiences to Randy. I wrote about it in my book, but that's a whole other show. But when I first saw his story on Hangar One, which is the MUFON TV show, it immediately, it was almost like I was reliving my own story, although I wasn't used for military purposes. I was used for something else. But I had a very similar experience, and I call it cheating time in another dimension. So when Randy came back, he was gone, 18 years? But he came back into his 18-year-old body, and he hadn't aged a day, although he felt like he had.
Yes.
You know, and I had this similar feeling. Not so much that I had aged chronologically, but that my spirit had aged.
Yes.
I had when I saw his story, I knew a little bit of it, but when I saw it on Hangar One, MUFON Files, it was like I was remembering my own episode and cheating time in another dimension. How do you vanish for 18 years and miss no time? Well, you had to cheat time in another dimension, and I actually wrote about it in my book. And the Randy Kramer story was completely and totally fascinating to me.
Well, John, I've got to read your book.
Okay, we can arrange that.
I've got to check that out. Yes, definitely got to check that out. But yeah, the whole.
Well, I wanted to interject about Randy. My understanding, because I just interviewed him, and I don't have 100% memory, but I kind of got what he was saying, is that they are able to put him back into a younger version of himself. So they have complete ability to do soul migration from one body to another. He repeatedly had been totally blown up, his head chopped off a couple of times.
Yes.
He didn't die, so they just put him back in a body, or else they're able to. He said at one time his arm was just total, ground meat. It was just so chopped up and screwed up from being. He was apparently in a lot of battles where he was fighting for the preservation of their culture there on Mars, and he probably doesn't know the whole details of what he was protecting, but he was a soldier. He was a super soldier. And they just, there's a procedure where they can regenerate an arm. But it's something like your energetic field exists while your physical field is destroyed. So your mind is tricked to believe it's there, kind of like the phantom limb syndrome. And you start sending energy and molecules and blood, and then it grows really fast, just a few hours. Your arm back, or it's all restored from being chewed up.
Yeah,
that's kind of what he said. I have to go listen to it again, but that's what I got, and I went, that's what I mean. My mind was boggled. It was like, wow.
Yeah. That's so fascinating, and I listened to a number of his interviews, and I listened to about a third of the way through your interview with him. I didn't really have the time to get any far, and it's just very fascinating. And when you couple that together with the realization that we live within a holographic universe, then it's just kind of another thing that kind of almost substantiates that to a certain degree. And then when he first started talking about that, I started thinking about Michael Rhinehart, who, if I'm not mistaken, in '76, he went into the service on Mars, spent 20 years, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was regressed. He was age regressed back to and sent back to when he left.
Well, they invest $100 million. It's not the $10 million man. We have inflation, so they invested $100 million on these super soldiers. And when you enlist, you're there for your total existence. And if you're 99 years old and they think that you're valuable, You don't get to retire. You don't get to be old. You nothing. They put you back into a younger body, and you're back on a mission. So it's a very interesting existence, and he's right now, Randy's kind of in between missions. And if that's true, he never gets to quite quit. And I think that is true. These people that are in these black ops, super secret military faction, or what do you call these programs, there's no quitting. The only way you can quit is if you die.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Even though it is so out there, out of the life's paradigm that most people have, it's to me, it kind of makes sense, and I think, like, why not? Why couldn't we have that? I mean, what do they say? They say there's nothing new under the sun, and and whatever is in. And I know someone really famous said this, but that whatever you can imagine is possible. So
right, and then some.
yeah. Beyond that, So anyway, that I guess when I was really, really heavily active into doing the photo analytic work with Mars, I had, first of all, I was certain of what I was doing. I knew that Mars was inhabited, and I'm finding so much evidence of it that it was like kind of overwhelming. I mean, I've got so much more that I haven't even put out there yet. That, but I'm going to. But it's just a process.
Right.
I've been organizing.
There's only so many hours in a day. Yeah. You can
And
then you get cross-eyed looking at it. I can imagine, like, cross-eyed trying to see all that stuff. But, we appreciate it. That's why it takes a team to do all this. This isn't going to be, there's no competition. We need everybody that's willing to do the work. This isn't about fame. It's not about money. It's just everybody doing a piece of the puzzle, doing their part. I'm a big team person. I'm an Aquarian. We're all about kumbaya, and let's all come together and do this and that and save the world, save the planet. So we need everybody to do their part. That's why I have this Aquarian radio, and I have all these guest hosts and people coming in. It's like, I can't do this all, I need help. I need someone else to do it. And Lord forbid, I'm sick or I dead. I want someone else to carry on. Because my goal is to have a better reality to come back into. Because I certainly don't like. I mean, I was born in the 50s, 54. And it seemed pretty cool, and it's been going downhill ever since, kind of in the toilet. On one hand, and on the other hand, there's this huge potential. I'm one of those potential people I see. I go, but I thought in that relationship there was such potential. Well, I do that for my planet. There is such potential for the human species, and I really believe in humanity and our spirit and our ability to rise above this and move past it and become who we really intend to be on some higher self level for ourselves and individually and collectively. So I really appreciate your work. And Mars is very important. And it wasn't just the Anunnaki. There have been these planets, apparently, with the research of people like Michael Rhinehart and others that are going back through the layers and looking at the ruins that go under millions, geologically, they find skeletons and remains in the level that's millions of years down. It's like, this doesn't make sense if you're doing the history books from humanity, in our educational system. Not at all. I know Cremo has found skeletons in the billions of years layers. And so people saying, it was an earthquake, it was an upheaval. Anyway, I'm not a geologist, but the information is coming back that, no, these are really that old. So we need to get the true history of this planet and the whole solar system. And that's what I think will happen when we finally are invited to the Federation. And I'm not sure what it takes critical mass, 100th monkey, 3%, something. And I'm really running out of patience. It's like, come on, guys, let's do this. Okay, back to we're running out of time here. Let's start wrapping up our thoughts. That really went fast. Let me go back to my
I'm amazed.
panel here.
I'm amazed. If I can just kind of let everyone know that the conference.
Yes, tell
again,
us more about the conference.
Yeah, that is on. Andy will be lecturing on the 24th of October from 10 to 5, and there's going to be a lunch provided for all the attendees, and then I'm going to host a dinner afterwards at a restaurant that I haven't announced yet, but I have someone working on that for me. So we're going to have a dinner afterwards, and then I am going to have a cookout at my place the following day for anyone that wishes to attend, and that's all on me. So I mean.
Oh, I
don't have a bunch of money. Yeah, I don't have. Go ahead. Okay.
I just want to bring Karen on real quick, and we'll all talk about the conference. Karen.
Okay.
Karen.
I am. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry. I got sidetracked. I didn't look at the panel. How long have you been waiting?
I've been listening to the whole thing with such delight because I know all of these good anomalous people, and I know the good Aquarian radio people, and how hard we are all working to get the truth out. And I would encourage people, I'm a person, just to kind of double back on what was being said, because I have some visual issues, I wouldn't say I was a rockist, but my perception wasn't there. I knew there was something to it, but I didn't always see a lot of the things these people are seeing. Then I hooked up with Brett, and I have to say my eyes have been opened, because it's a perception thing, and it starts with your mind. It starts with your mind to open yourself to the possibility that we live in a very a big universe with lots of teeming life of all kinds of strange kinds of things. Brett and I sort of lean over the lunar anomaly thing as well, and some of these themes that Lewis was talking about, they sound very strange, but they're echoed in some of the artifacts and images of the moon as well. And kind of have to say, like, what if someone came to Earth? Like, we're hearing about, a polar bear that might be a hut, and there's a lot of skulls, I remember, on the surface of Mars, and those tend to be entrances and exits to the surface. On the moon, there's a lot of god and goddess imagery that Brett and I are working with and to decode for people. And what we're given is a consensus reality show, okay? And it's a show. It's media-based. Up to this point, our government, our religious institutions, political institutions gave us a story. They gave us a story that suited their need for us to be in the dark and obeying the rules and doing everything that we were told, to do the right thing, but according to systems. And when you were guys talking about 9/11, we've had shocks to our system to shock us into realizing that our reality is not what we think that it is. And so this is where people need to just look at a lot of pictures. That's your education. There's many out there. Get into the Mars Anomaly Research, Earth Anomaly Research, Lunar Anomaly Research, the United Family of Anomaly Hunters who've interviewed people. Start looking, educate your mind, and educate your eyes. And that's what has opened my eyes and helped me to realize that there was a civilization that was spacefaring in our solar system, and it was kind of a multi-dimensional, diverse culture of a lot of different kinds of beings interacting with each other. And there was some kind of cataclysm that apparently interrupted that whole interaction, or perhaps it's functioning on its own, and we're sort of an experiment cut off from whatever that is, secret space program, which is probably also connected to the other races that are spacefaring still. And that we're being brought very quickly up to speed, because for many centuries we were kind of low to the ground using low-tech technology. We tend to kind of look at our ancestors and look at them as very primitive, but the more I study the ancient ancestors, they weren't as primitive as we are told. At one point, most of the people on the earth could read and write, but it was a lot older era than what we have now. So we degraded it. Michael Rhinehart nails it. He says we had an advanced culture, and then it was degraded. And now we're recovering, I guess, or going through some process to start a new type of culture. So this is what the anomaly thing is about. And if you haven't looked at these, just look and look. I've probably seen now a couple thousand pictures, and it's educated my mind and educated my eyes. And I've actually found an anomaly on my own, which was on Mars, and it was in an image from the MOC, and it was the same image that Brett Colin Shepard, who's my partner, found a UFO on Mars. That's on Mars.com. Check it out, guys. And what's going on is there was and is a civilization there. Maybe it's post-apocalyptic in nature, and they live underground, but there's a heck of a lot going on. And one thing you have to realize is there's a lot of distortion of the imagery because, for instance, Mars isn't as red as we think it might be. It might be the colors. If you start, people manipulating the color spectrum and finding out that there's been filters to make it always look red. Well, if you took a picture of Disneyland and you put a red filter on it, everything will look red and maybe like rocks. I don't know. But so it's your mind. It's open your mind, open your eyes, open your heart to the fact that even though we have been manipulated and lied to, we can realize that. We can open our minds and hearts and get together. And I'm with you, Janet. Let's fix the planet. And it starts with our thoughts and our perception. So I'm just happy as heck to hear all of you say what you're saying and doing the work that you're doing. It just really helps encourage me every day to do my part. And more, if you're not doing anything, people, go look. Start looking at a Mars image and look for yourself. And this is why this is exploding. The whole anomaly thing is exploding. Andy predicted it. He said pretty soon people are going to be playing Find a Hidden Picture in Mars images as a hobby. And I watched it happen. And so here we are. Lewis, so glad to hear from you, and I hope your conference is a raging success. Please tell people more if you haven't already. I didn't hear the first part of the show. But love you guys.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, it is quite. It's actually amazing of what is out there to be revealed. There's so much that has been kept from us, and it is time. It is time for this all to be brought out and for everybody to know the reality of what's really going on.
Well, I wanted to bring on Karen. I just wanted her to give her report, her perceptions, and some feedback before we ran out of time. There's some noise going on. I'm not sure what's going on there with background noise.
I hear
somebody mute your mic. I don't know what's going on. Karen, let me go back. Karen forgot she's still on the show. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, mute her. I love her, but
I'm
mute
going
her.
to mute her. Here we go.
It's not me. It's not me.
There we go.
Oh,
woo.
Better.
Yay.
Yay.
I love you, but we had to mute you.
and that was so rude. I interrupted you when you were talking about the conference, but I didn't realize I had left Karen hanging for how long. So let's go back and talk about the conference again, because I think what you're creating is really nice, and I like the personal touch. You're gonna take everybody to a restaurant. You're gonna buy this, or is this Dutch? Is everybody gonna pay for their own?
No, I'm gonna foot the bill.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to.
Wow,
and
that's nice.
And I think it'll be really awesome for the next day for anybody that, wishes to attend the cookout, that they'll be able to, have a casual a time with Andy and, and all of us. It'll be really good. It'll be really good, And, of course, I'd like to really give a special thanks to the University of South Alabama for doing this for us. They're very reasonable as far as their rates and very accommodating. So it's really it's awesome. It's located, of course, in Mobile, Alabama, at on University and on University Boulevard, and it's going to be in the Student Center in the terrace meeting room. Everything is going to be great. They're going to have signs leading people into it and everything, and they're doing that on their own as just basically kind of a favor. This is what we do for people that have meetings here, So it's pretty nice. Yeah, it's pretty nice, So I'm really, really looking forward to it, and of course, just being able to hear Andy talk about his experiences, and the title for the event is called Destination Mars. So it's all about Mars, but that's the title for the event. And I think that anyone that I posted this little blurb on Facebook that I had an opportunity to go see the Beatles, and I didn't take it. And of course, I sure wish I would have, But so I mean, Andy, him talking about Mars is much greater than that, and the people are going to regret not hearing him speak in person, And I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm happy so far. Like I said, we've got about 25 that are going to attend so far. About 10 of those are my family, which is awesome, because they're being very supportive, and we actually have, and I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning this, maybe I'll just mention her first name, and her first name is Linda, and her grandson, James, who is 12 years old, will be attending the conference.
Wow.
Which is really pretty cool. I think it's really cool, So anyway, everything I've done, all the work I've done that I put on the Facebook is there that people can look at and see what I've done. And if you really want to have your mind blown, to first of all look at Andy's paper, Discovery of Life on Mars. Go to projectmars.net and look at the Annals of Mars. There's a couple papers that I've written in there. And then go to Mars Anomaly Research Society, the group on Facebook, and key in any keyword you want to into the search engine within the group, and you'll find what you're looking for. Or key on to photos and look at all the amazing things that people will find. I mean, someone that stands out to me, there's this anomalist, her name is Martine Gainey, and she has done some incredible work, really incredible work. She's a great finder of anomalies and good ones, and she posts them in Mars and other groups. So there's a lot of people out there doing this work. I am far from the only one. I am just happy to do my part. That really is the truth. I'm happy to do my part and add just a small piece that maybe I can have a piece to the puzzle that fits. So
wow. Well, good. Wonderful.
And thank you guys very much for having me
well,
on. I appreciate it so much.
You. when I was back in 89, 90, 91, probably around 91 or maybe 92, I started doing this, putting on events thing. And I am crazy. I'm still working on it. Still doing it all these years later. You have to be crazy to do events, by the way. Yeah, you do. And so I had Linda Moulton Howe, and Penn State University did the same thing. I really encourage these universities to allow affordable venues so you can have people. And what really amazed me was the children that showed up. There were a couple. There's one little, 6-year-old, 5 or 6-year-old. She was amazing. And I'm thinking, she's going to be too young for this. It's really heady. And she was just fixated, and she was drawing the whole time. And I'm thinking, she's bored. She's just drawing. And later I looked at her pictures, and she was drawing everything that they were talking about as fast as she could. A little star child. And I went, wow. These kids are amazing. But that was already 20 years ago. She's all grown up right now. Okay, we have 3 minutes and 57 seconds. John, would you like to say some final words?
Real quick. I've believed for a long time that the United States and other industrialized nations here on Earth have bases on the moon and Mars, and have had these bases in conjunction with the secret space program that taxpayers have been paying for perhaps even decades. And I'm sure that y'all would agree with that. Something that we haven't really talked about. Terranean bases, probably more underground subterranean bases, factories, and there's multiple factions of humans from our planet, Illuminati, and ETs from around the Milky Way and the Andromeda and the multiverse that have bases on the moon and Mars. So those are my final thoughts. My name is Reverend John M. Polk, and I'm the author of Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien, which you can find by going to my website, johnpolkmedia.com. And Lewis, you're an incredible speaker, and I know that the conference will be a tremendous success. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that tickets are still available to go to this conference on October 24th. I will just have to go there and sticking my neck out and saying tickets are still available. We got about 2 weeks to go. We have 2 weeks to purchase tickets. And you get a deal if you get 3 people. Instead of $100 a person, it's $80 per person. Correct?
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
And a meal is included, and Lewis is going to foot for dinner the next night. It's on Lewis. So if you go, you get a couple free meals out of it, and presidential candidate and, Mars enthusiast Andrew Basiago will be the keynote speaker, and you're presenting as well. So it ought to be a tremendous conference, and if I didn't have to work that entire weekend, I would have loved to have been there.
Well, John, thank you very much. It has been a real pleasure. It really has. It's been a real pleasure. I thank you guys.
Likewise.
We're so... Well, you have the last word here. Go ahead, Lewis. Take it away.
Well,
final word.
I'm just going to leave with one thing, and that is that Mars is an inhabited planet. There's no denying it, and the general population will know that very, very soon, especially if you attend the conference.
I agree. All right.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
We will see you again next week for Experiencers Network. And Sunday, I have Paul Davids, the producer. We're going to talk about Marilyn Monroe on freedomslips.com, on Revolution Radio, The Sacred Matrix. And we'll be back next week with Ed Baker, our guest presidential candidate, and John Polk. And that's been another show. I'm Janet Carroll Lessin on Aquarian Radio at aquarianradio.com. And much love and blessings, and aloha.
North Pole Hotline.
Help! My in-laws are hosting Thanksgiving, and we're bringing the dressing.
You mean stuffing?
No, dressing. I need cute outfits for everyone.
Get to Old Navy.
Old Navy?
Yep, Old Navy's kicking off the holidays with stylish denim, velvet tops, the season's best dresses, and 40% off your entire purchase now through Tuesday.
40% off? We'll be stuffing our shopping bags full.
And don't forget colorful sweaters and amazing outerwear, too. You can even buy online and pick up in store for free.
Ooh, I love an all-you-can-wear buffet.
Holiday your heart out at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Valid 11/18 to 11/20. Exclusions apply. See stores for details.